for today's video, we will be going over um, a little bit about just kind of just like contrast versus curve. So there's two ways I like to edit my contrast. Okay, so we're gonna edit this clip right here. We'll just play it real quick. So a little before, just there we go. Okay, so that's gonna be our hero shot. And basically when I'm like looking for the hero shot, like you'll never just edit something like this or like this. Like you want to look like something that's gonna be the main part of the video, the wow factor. So this is going to be the hero shot for the video. Again, we will be applying the Meister Film emulation. So basically you can just click that, and again, this is available for purchase, link in the description there, and this will be on my website. So we'll apply this preset. So again, for the first step, we're gonna have to choose which camera are we using. By default, it's by Rec 709. I'm using the Sony FX3. So I will be choosing Sony S Gamma 3 and then S Log 3 for the input gamma. So input color space, always Sony S Gamma 3, and then input gamma Sony S Log 3, and I'll never change these two settings. These two, you can keep it as it is. And then again, the second step, and already you can see the big difference that it makes to the image, right? So before, after, it kind of like soft up the image a little bit. And then the second node will be contrast. So for contrast, we won't be like, again, color grading this clip like fully, but we're just gonna kind of focus more about the curves and then the contrast, right? So, and this is probably the most important like part, because again, like too much contrast, remember, too much contrast doesn't look good, and not enough, again, the image looks a little bit soft, right? So you got to find that middle ground. And what I like to do is I like to look at this curve right here, and again, you want to bring your colors just above 0, and then again for the highlights, like usually like around 768. Some people will push it to 896, but again, it depends on the look that you're trying to go for. You can also go to your waveform and see what is going on with the highlights, and right now, like, there's nothing crazy going on in the highlights, just because again we've lowered the contrast. But if you increase it, you can see there's a little bit of white around here, because you know the contrast is starting to touch the whites and the highlights in the back over here. You can see, so there's a little bit of white. So that indicates to me that, you know, there's a little bit too much contrast for me, but at the same time, some people do like, you know, they do enjoy that look, right? So for me, probably around here. And then we can look at the parade, so we can see the reds are touching, but that's when you're gonna use your pivot. And again, your pivot, if you lower it, it will increase, it'll be more softer, I guess, and then if you decrease it, it'll be a little bit more darker. So you kind of want to find that middle. I kind of like it right here. Perfect. So then you're gonna go to your global node, and again, we want to just lower down the shadows just a tab. So what I would do is I would just bring down my lift. So again, lift is shadows, GABA is your midpoint, gain is your highlights, and then the offset is kind of just the overall wheel. So technically, if you're kind of like, oh, like I want to shift my camera white balance, which is kind of just like, is it gonna be warm or is it gonna be cold, right? You can use this like the Kelvin, but you can also use the offset wheel. So if I wanted more warm, you can pull it just a little bit, right? And then if you wanted a little bit more cold, we'll do the opposite, right? So this is just another trick that you can use And honestly, like this looks kind of cool. It's just like this old vintage look. I'll actually leave it here. We're gonna go back to our global node, and again, we want to bring this down just a little bit. So we're actually gonna shift the shadows just a little bit right there. That looks pretty good. I did like the highlights to be a little bit more white, so we're gonna stretch the highlights. That's good. And then again, the midpoint, I could increase it just a tad. Oh, too much. There we go. Good. So that was the first way we kind of looked. Like this is just one way, I guess you could say, when you're doing your contrast, your pivot, and then your colors. This is one way to do it. The second way I will show you guys will be curves. Okay, so we're gonna reset. I kind of want to save this power grade actually, so we're gonna grab the still, but we're gonna reset everything. Again, we're gonna add the Meister Film emulation preset. I like to delete the one. We're gonna go to color space transform. We're gonna put Sony S Gamut 3 Cine and Sony S Log 3. So the other way you can do it is you can go to your contrast and adjust your contrast as you would like. So let's just do it very quick like this. Maybe shift down the pivot just a little bit like that. And then instead, you can use your S curve. So what I would do is I would put 3 points, 1 and 2. And basically, if you lower this part of the curve, this is your shadow, right? This is your midpoint. So again, it's just kind of like this wheel, right? Lift, gamma, gain, right? So here, lift, gamma, gain. So maybe we will lower down the shadows just a bit, and again, you got to look at this here, right? And then you can bring down just a little bit, maybe actually bring up the shadows, or sorry, the midpoints. And then we're actually going to lower the gains right here. What you can also do to make it a little bit more vintage, you can actually bring up your shadows like this, right? And then a little bit. There we go. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now you can, let's say for example, if you wanted to add a little bit more, I don't know, maybe you wanted to add some more green in your video, you can put points, and then basically if you want to just add green to your highlights, you would pull this up right here, right? If you want more green in your midtones, you can put another point here and then bring it up. Oh, we're doing red, sorry. I'm not even doing, wait, was I grabbing green or red? Okay, wait, I think I'm grabbing red. I was like, why is this not turning green? But let's just go green, put point here, point here. So if I push the greens up, this will affect the highlighted part. If I push the green in the shadows, this will affect the shadows. So you can utilize this as a way to not only for your white balance, but as well as you know, your shadows, your midpoint, and then obviously your highlights. So it's just kind of another way, but realistically I wouldn't be touching like the red, green, and blue right away. Like I would most likely go to my white balance, go to effect, and then maybe we'll push a little bit more blue this time, right? And then basically what I would do is I would still do the color corrections here as well. So maybe I would push the blues a little bit more, bring down some saturation just to make it a little bit more vintage. But again, like for your global node, you can use that as, again, for contrast, your pivot, and also for adding colors. So just from looking at this image, like this looks pretty good. Like it's something that I would post. The only little things I would change is obviously, like, we're not going to dive into the other nodes and all the other details, but obviously you can mask some of these objects here to make it look a little bit sharper. So that's it for today, and then yeah, we'll see you guys in the next video. Probably the next topic will be maybe like halation versus bloom. Comment down below if you want a specific topic, even sharpness. The last thing is, when you're looking at this image right here, if you're going to be uploading this to Instagram, you want to blast the contrast just a little bit more, just because Instagram will decompress your file. So if you want sharper quality, always increase contrast. All right, guys, I'll see you guys next time.